Aloha and welcome to this experience, 5 problems every software engineer should be able to solve. Part 2. As I said before, there's this blog post about 5 problems you're supposed to be able to solve in an hour. Hour is too long for a WOD. So let's just solve the second one this time, which is a function called zipList. But we're going to, add in, use this as an opportunity to practice the integration of all our techniques for really being a software engineer and not just a hacker. Okay? So let's start the timer. And we're going to create an empty GitHub repo called zipList. So let's go to GitHub. And then let's go to new repository. And then we'll call it zipList. We'll initialize it with a README. We'll create the repo. And then we'll go to clone or download. Open in desktop. It'll be inside our GitHub Philip M. Johnson directory. Clone, zipList, and we've got it locally, got the repo locally. Next, create an IntelliJ static web project called zipList within that. Okay, so we'll go to IntelliJ, and what that's doing there. And then we'll go to create new project, static web, and then we'll look in Philip M. Johnson GitHub, Philip M. Johnson for zipList. That's the one we'll use. And we'll say finish. So now we've got this. We've got a static web project called zipList inside. Next, we're going to use the coding standard. So once again, and as usual, we'll say yes. We want everything added to GitHub. So we'll go to IntelliJ. We'll go to IntelliJ, Preferences, Editor. Code style, confirm that the template's okay, and then we'll go to inspections, and we'll get rid of JavaScript, and we'll click OK, and we'll go to preferences, and we'll set the JavaScript version to ECMAScript 6, OK, and then we'll go to preferences, JavaScript, code quality, ESLint, enable. Okay. I think that's all of them, right? We disable the inspections, set to ECMAScript 6, ESLint. The only thing left is to download our sample .eslint.rc, and we'll put that into the zipList directory. And then once it's there, we'll go to IntelliJ, and we'll select it, and we'll go Shift F6 to rename it to .eslint.rc. There we go. So like just in a couple minutes, we've got things set up, which is really, how fast this should go once you're good at it. And that's why I keep having you do this stuff so that you can do this fast, because there's a bunch of steps, but none of them need to take really that long if you're, if you know what you want to do, which is kind of, what I'm trying to show you is possible. So let's make our index.html, and then inside our index.html we want to have our script. By now I'm assuming that you guys can kind of crank along with this just like I'm cranking along with it, because you've done it a bunch of times, right? Haven't you? Please tell me that you've done this a bunch of times. Whoops. And we want to call this zipList.js. Okay. So there we have it. And so now we got to write this function called zipList that accepts 2 lists of equal length and returns the result of alternately taking elements. Okay, so let's go into zipList. I'll do a propeller E, so you can see that's a better way to do it without. And then let's get rid of this general inspection error by saying implements the zipList function from E27. Okay, so function zipList, list 1, list 2, let's make these two test lists, why don't we? So we'll say const test list 1 equals, I think it was supposed to be A and then a B and then a C, and then const test list 2 is supposed to be a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And in fact, we're getting ESLint error, so that's always a good thing to kind of, you know, confirm to ourselves that ESLint is running in the background. So anyway, so what are we going to do here? We've got to put these lists together. So what we could do is we could make a declare a variable called result list, which is going to be equal to an empty list to start. Sorry, Jesus. Oops. Okay. It's going to be equal to an empty list to start, and then we're going to add the elements to it as we go through. These lists have to be of equal length, otherwise our zipper is going to break. So one thing we could do is we could say for let I equal to 0, I less than list 1, doesn't matter which one, they're both of the same length, I double plus, just to get a counter that's going to go through all the elements of this array. And inside of that, what we're going to say is simply push onto result list the current element of list 1, as well as the current element, list 1, as well as the current element of list 2. Okay? So that's our for loop, and then at the end of it, we just have to return result list and get rid of inspection error. So let's see what this we need a space here. And now let's just try invoking this. So we could say console.log zipList with test list 1 and test list 2. Okay, so let's see, what do we have going on here? We have typos, function zipList. No, okay, what does this say? New line required event of file but not found. Okay, so let's do that, and then let's click here, we get our green check mark like we want. And so now let's go to index.html and then see if we get what we want. Well, we don't get what we want in the right window, so let me bring down this from above and then do a propeller option J to see the result list is not a function. That's unusual. Of course not. Oh, right, result list. Yeah, we're invoking result list. In fact, result list, we want to push this value on there. Okay. So let's go to index.html, run this again, and there we have it, A1, B2, C3. So that's good. That's much better. So let's go back and see what happened to our. Oh, there it is. Now let me put this guy over here so he's more available to us. Okay, now write a function called zipList the simple way that does the same thing using underscore. Okay, so let's go to zipList.js. Now we're supposed to say function zipList the simple way, list 1, list 2, and we're supposed to use underscore. So let's go look at the underscore documentation to try to figure out what the heck we should do. So if we go to underscore.js, the first thing to note is, we could like search for zip and in fact find that there's this zip function. That, it's very promising, right? If we're supposed to write something called zipList and there's an underscore function called zip. So we look at this thing. What we notice is it takes any number of arrays and it zips them together, but it zips them together by creating nested arrays. Okay, that's not good. In the sense that we're supposed to not have a nested array, but otherwise it looks pretty good. It takes the first two elements and puts them together right here, and then takes the second two elements and puts them together right here. There's a third array here, but we're only zipping, if we think of this just being two. It's really close. The only problem is that we have this nesting. Okay, so this is where you have to kind of know a little bit about underscore, but that's okay. You can search around for a couple minutes and find that there's this thing called flatten, which does exactly what we want, which is to take, these nested things and then just get rid of any internal, array. So what we want to do is we want to call the zip function, and then we want to pass the return, get the return of that and pass it to the flatten function. And then I think we're done. So we can say return underscore.flatten on the results of underscore.zip list1, list2. And I think that's, that's pretty much all you have to do. Now this is defined but never used, so let's just make a copy of that and then say zipList the simple way, and let's check to see if we got our green check mark, which is what we want, and then we go to index.html and we run this and we get the two things, we get the same thing twice, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so we've made sure there's a green check mark indicating ESLint does not indicate any problems. We commit our finished code to GitHub. So we go to GitHub, and here's all our changes. So finished zip list. So we'll commit and sync. And now that it's synced, we want to check to see that it's on GitHub, so we can say view on GitHub. That's kind of the easiest way to get there. There's all our code. It looks perfect. There's the code in the repository. That looks perfect. Stop your timer, record our time. So 12 minutes, 30 seconds. We'll call it 13 minutes for this WOD. Hopefully by this point, you're pretty good at writing simple code that conforms to our standards.